here would like to turn your hobby into a job? Hands? Yeah, well, in fact, actually, the statistics are 76% of us would. What about people here who would like to own their own business? Yeah, in fact, 70% of us would. Oh, and by the way, 80% of us think that we can become YouTube stars. But actually, these three things have something in common, and that is leadership. That's right. Now, when I talk about leadership, I want you to imagine something really quickly. I want you to think of somebody that you know who has the qualities of a leader that you look up to. This could be a family member, or maybe it's somebody that you work with. Got that in your head? Cool. All right, now, hold that there, and I want you to swap that image for yourself. That's right. For the rest of this talk, when I say the word leadership, I'm talking about you, because step 0 to being a leader is leading ourselves in our careers and what we're going to do next. Now, with that image of yourself in your head, I want you to think about something that you want in the future. It could be a goal that you're going after or something that you want to get to. Got it? Cool. Now, who thinks that with a lot of hard work and a little bit of luck, this is going to happen? Yeah, I did, sure. And you know, like, let's not discount hard work and a little bit of luck. It certainly gets you a long way. It got me from a design degree to running a design team at Last.fm and going through a major acquisition to co-founding my own music startup to then later leading one of the world's most beloved video platforms. But up until that point, I couldn't truly call myself a leader. Something critical was missing, and I'm going to tell you what it is, and also what to do about it when it shows up for you, because it's a little bit gnarly, okay? All right, I come from a place of extremes, and I'm actually kind of glad that I got to learn about these extremes early on in life. I grew up helping raise 5 younger sisters in northwestern Canada, where we have these extremely long, cold, brutal winters, and these very short but very hot, dry summers. And you know, it's the kind of place where actually, if you're not careful about it, the environment will actually hurt you. In fact, it's not that much different than New York City, which is where the story that I'm going to tell you takes place. So about 2 years ago, I moved from London, England, where I spent my adult life, to New York. And when I did that, a bunch of things started happening in rapid succession, like dominoes, actually, that I think most people would call stress. I'm going to call it chasing my dreams in music and entertainment technology, okay? Living those extremes. And when I did this, what ended up happening was that I put myself on the brink multiple times over and over again. And the story goes a little something like this. So I get here, and like 4 months after I get to New York, the job that I came here for like completely implodes. And oh, by the way, like my relationship does at the same time. It's always great to have those two things happen at once. But like, I'm an immigrant, you guys know this, right? So, you know, I need to find another job to stay in the country to get a visa. So I do that, but it's not really the job that I actually want. So I like really hustle while I'm there, and then I find the job that I really want. But I work in this super volatile industry of like entertainment technology. Things are popping up and down. So that company is getting acquired, but we're not all going across with the acquisition, and you're thinking, oh God, it's happening to her again. No, but this time I got sneaky. I have another job waiting in the wings. It's all going to be fine, because that job is going to be the general manager at a company called Vine. Well, you probably know what happened next. So against this intense backdrop of career turmoil and stress, I find out very shortly into my tenure there that Twitter is making the really difficult decision to shut the service Vine down. Hold up, what? This is not what I came here for. This is not what I want to be doing. This was not chasing the dreams. I don't want to be the one that has to do this. What are people going to think of me? And also, like, shutting down a business is actually like really complicated. It's a ton of operational work. It's like HR and infrastructure and budgets and like community and communications and legacy. I had 3 choices in that moment. Like, peace out, right? Or, you know, phone it in and start looking for another job. Or I could put my own personal desires on hold and pull out all the stops and do the best that I could possibly do to do right by the community, by my team, and by the company. I want to pause there and talk a little bit about what makes a leader. So, Harvard Business Review, where I got my DIY MBA because I went to design school, they have done some really fascinating research on what makes a leader. And I'm going to paraphrase some of this for you. So, in interviewing top leaders, both young and old, they found that all of them could point to a very specific, intense, often traumatic, always unplanned event that was the definitive source of their sort of like distinctive leadership capabilities. And HBR dubs these crucibles, so into the fire, out stronger. And for the leaders, the crucibles, they were a trial and a test. It was a moment of deep self-reflection where they had to really question what mattered to them and who they were. And that's exactly what happened in that moment. I had to question what truly mattered. And all of a sudden, all these things about like what people were going to think of me and what I thought the expectations were just fell away. And three things became very apparent. The first, any manager will tell you that going through a round of tough layoffs is part of the job, and it doesn't matter how many times we have to go through this, it never gets any easier, but there's a lot of ways that you can do it, and it's all about the details. I went above and beyond to make sure that I could treat people with respect, which actually requires a lot of extra operational work, and it does, honestly it does. But I did this because it mattered to me, and my peers noticed and they praised me for it. Number two, I worked really closely with Twitter to figure out how we could archive all of these vines online so that they were still accessible, because I couldn't bear the thought of 3.5 years of pop art and culture just disappearing from the internet, right? And again, also, this is really gnarly work, okay? Like, you have to get deep into the guts of infrastructure. Video is like no joke, lots of budgets. It's complicated stuff. But we figured out how to do it, and I did that because it mattered to me. Number three, I worked really closely with my team, whom I cannot thank enough for all of this, to figure out how we could ship a version of the Vine camera so that creators could at least still have the tools to create with. Because whole new genres of video were born from this, like selfie comedy and stop motion, and I couldn't bear the thought of them not being able to make their art form anymore without having this tool. And that was really gnarly and difficult too. And then we took this all one step further and made sure that the output of this, these looping videos, could also be present on Twitter too. And I did all of this because it mattered. And it really warmed my heart the other week to see one of the Vine stars post about actually using this. I was like, oh yeah, it's working. So when I made the decision to do these things, you know, I figured it was going to be pretty tough. But I was like, I'm a tough cookie. I come from those extreme mountains. I can handle this. Whoo-wee, was that hard. I mean, that was like really hard, like extremely hard. But this is the moment where I can say that I became a leader. This is the moment where it all started to make sense for me. And if you follow your dreams, if you lead yourself, if you get out there onto your brink, this is where the unexpected happens. And the unexpected is where we find our crucible. And when you find this, I want you to be grateful for finding your crucible, because what's happening to you is actually really important. It's actually really necessary. And it's something that you can't learn from a book. You can't learn from your school, and you certainly can't learn from a TED Talk like this. This is the moment that is going to give you some edge. This is where you are going to become a better leader because of this. You actually want this to happen to you. But it's going to suck. Yeah, I'm not going to lie. It's going to really suck. But I have the secret for how you can get through it. And it's actually really counterintuitive. So when it felt like my career was falling apart over and over again, I started sacrificing all of these other parts in my life to just like double down on the things that I thought I should be doing, the things that I thought would fix it, right? This makes sense. No. Actually, it wasn't until a very grueling stretch where I realized all of a sudden that I had to do the things that I loved as well. I had to do the things I wanted and enjoyed alongside all this tough stuff that I needed to do to just like get through this as like a sane, whole, intact person by the end of it. And I suppose, you know, some people, they would probably call this like taking care of yourself. But I'm a nerd, so I'm going to call it removing the single point of failure. Now, here's the thing. In software design, we talk about something called a single point of failure. It's a weak link in a system. And what that means is when that link fails, the whole system goes down. Now, in this particular case, you never want this to happen, by the way, in software design. It's very bad. The system that we're talking about is me, right? Yeah, okay, cool. Because once upon a time, actually, I didn't have anything to define myself by but my work. And the thing about this is when my work didn't feel like it was going that well, I didn't even really have an identity. And that is a really dark and scary place to be. But once I started doing the things that I wanted to do, along the things that I had to do too, all of a sudden, not only was I able to overcome my crucible, but I was also able to remove this single point of failure. So to close here, I want to go back to this research and talk about what happens. People emerge from their crucibles stronger and changed in some ways, really like knowing their fundamental purpose. And that is exactly what happened in that moment. All of a sudden, I just became like really clear about my needs and my wants. And all of this other stuff, all of these like expectations, they just sort of fell away. They disappeared. And when that happened, all of a sudden, I felt far more confident about what I needed to go out there and get. I want you to bring back this image of yourself as a leader now in your head, the one that you were picturing at the beginning. And I want you to think about that goal that you're going after, right? You're probably on some kind of brink right now too. Maybe it's something that you need to do. Maybe it's something that you want and you think you're going to find your brink along the way. Whatever it is, it's probably pretty scary. Maybe it's a little bit scary. Don't walk away from it. I want you to go for this. This is actually really important. Be grateful for this opportunity. This is yours. It's something that only you can have, and you can't get it from anywhere else. And what's even better is now you have the secret for how to get through it, too. So, as you exit this auditorium shortly, I want to ask one last thing of you. As you leave and you're thinking about your goals and your needs and your wants and your brink, I want you to leave behind all the things that come from a place of expectations. All of those things that are not truly you, that are inauthentic, just leave them right here as you walk out the door, because they have no business being on your brink.